21 days of prayer for the Australian federal elections coming up shortly, and the decision of the majority or a lot of Christian churches across the nation to join in with prayer and fasting over a 3-week period. I thought it'd be a good idea for me to share some thoughts about fasting. Fasting is something that isn't so well known in the contemporary church. Right through history, though, Christians have fasted and prayed. They've set aside particular times and events by which they would fast for a period of time. Different patterns of fasting have grown up over the years, but it certainly seems that in our modern day and age, where we seem to have an abundance of luxuries, the idea of fasting as a spiritual discipline has really gone by the board. So I just want to share some ideas with you this morning about that, and hopefully this will help you and make you feel confident that you can join in this movement of prayer and fasting. So firstly, I want to distinguish between a couple of different ideas about fasting, and then we'll talk about different types of fasting. And this is all for your encouragement, it's all for grace. We're not talking about a legalistic sort of thing where you must do this or you must do that. It's all about where you're at with God. So there's a religious idea about fasting, that the fasting is about getting your particular God or your deity or whoever you worship to be impressed with your spirituality, and that's the purpose of fasting. So fasting happens in a lot of different religions around the world, and the whole idea is to prove to yourself and to the God that you're seeking help from that you truly are a worthwhile person, that God would then be impressed and grant you your request. Now, Christian fasting is different because everything is by grace anyway. There's no compulsion for Christians. We do out of what we do out of a sense of our love for God. So, really, when Christians fast, it's an entirely different motivation to what people from other religions might. For us, it's an attempt to set aside a period of time where we focus on our relationship with God through prayer during a period when we're fasting. And the fasting then, it disrupts your normal routine of eat, and it reminds you that there's a purpose for this special time and place, and it's to draw you into prayer. So whenever you feel hungry, you pray. Whenever you normally would eat at a mealtime, you pray. Whenever you would snack on chocolate or snack bars or whatever, you pray, so that you're breaking your normal routine and instead reminding yourself that you're in a special season of prayer. So that's the motivation for fasting. A lot of people confuse dieting with fasting. So even somebody that takes part in a 40-day total fast will not necessarily lose weight. They'll lose weight while they're not eating, but later on, when they resume their normal activities and their normal styles of living over a period of time, they'll get back to pretty much the same weight they were before. So dieting is about changing your eating patterns to achieve a physical goal. Fasting is about achieving a spiritual goal. And so there's not necessarily any connection there with long-term weight loss, unless as part of your spiritual discipline, you take on a physical discipline, such as, going to the gym or whatever, to make your body more efficient. So dieting is one thing, fasting is another. There are different forms of fasting. When we mention the word fasting, most people immediately think of total fasting. And so that's where you don't eat anything at all for a period of time. The most extreme example of that is the 40-day fast. I know one or two people that have completed a 40-day fast. It's a fairly rigorous sort of process. Jesus, of course, in the wilderness, when he was tempted by Satan, took a period of 40 days when he didn't eat anything. Some people, for a total fast, will only drink water during that period of time. Other people will drink fruit juice, or clear juice like apple juice, or whatever. So there's variations on the theme. Some people who start off with total fasting will just do 1 or 2 days at a time, and then gradually build it up to a week, 2 weeks, or whatever. But again, this is something that you should only do if you really feel that God is wanting you to do it. And if you've got any health reasons or health issues, you need to talk to your doctor about that before you start. Then there's a limited fast, which is a lot less rigorous, I think. And in a limited fast, you decide, well, I'm going to not fast continually, but I'm just going to have the evening meal. So the time from when I go to bed till 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whenever you have dinner or tea, you don't eat during that period. And that's a valid form of fasting too. So, and that's what I'm recommending personally, that people at New Life try during this period of fasting. Now, you don't have to do it every day, just one day or whatever you've nominated. John Wesley, when he was starting the Methodist Church, required of his ministers that they fast in this way each Wednesday and Friday as a form of spiritual discipline. And that's not a bad idea. I used to do that in Hay. I haven't done it for many years, but it's a good process, a good thing to maybe just one day a week to say, well, I'm going to set aside this day of the week for seeking God, and I won't eat as part of that discipline until dinner time. So that's a limited fast. The third form is what's often called the Daniel fast. Now, in the book of Daniel, in chapter 1, there's a description there where Daniel and a lot of the elite leaders from Israel, when the Babylonians invaded Israel, they took away most of the leaders and the royal people and the craftsmen and tradies and all those sorts of people. They took them back to Babylon, and Daniel was part of the upper political class, I guess you'd say, and he was brought into Babylon with the idea that he could be a part of the advisory team or the policy team or the administrative team of the emperor. So he was in a position where he was going to serve the emperor in that sort of role, and it was a job requirement that he ate the same rich foods that the king ate, and that was seen as a privilege. But Daniel said, well, this food is not what my body's used to. I'm used to more simpler food. I'm used to food that complies with the law of Moses, and a lot of this food that the king ate would not be acceptable in Jewish circles. So he asked for permission just to not eat red meat and not to eat various others of the things that would be ceremonially unclean. And he was given permission to do that for a period of time, and at the end of that time he actually looked healthier than when he started. So the Daniel fast is a continuation of that, eating simply, eating less meat, cutting back on the snacks and that sort of thing, and the dairy food, and just focusing more on what we now consider actually is to be very healthy eating. And some people do that, they adopt it as a lifestyle. Some people might do it for a week and then go back to their normal eating patterns. They might do that once a month, or they might take a month of a Daniel fast and alternate it with ordinary food. It's again, there's no hard and fast rules with this. And the final form of fasting is what I call giving up stuff. You know, there's a tradition, especially from the Catholic tradition, that during the period of Lent, the 40 days leading up to Easter, that you give up something for Lent. It's called fasting, but it's more just a low-key fasting where you give up on chocolate, or you give up on ice cream, or you don't go and buy your cappuccinos and lattes and you drink instant coffee instead. Whatever, and people do that over a period of time. And again, it's the same idea, reminding you that you're in a special time focused on praying and focused on drawing closer to God. And that's a valid form of fasting too. So there's total fasting, there's limited fasting, there's the Daniel fast, and then there's this giving up luxury items for a period of time. So with the 21 days of prayer and fasting coming up really soon, starts on the 28th of April and goes through till the federal election, I just want to encourage you to give this a go. If you haven't signed up yet, then try and find a form of fasting that suits you, that's ideal for you, and give it a go for a day or a week or whatever. Well, God bless you, and I'll see you soon.